y dos, y dos, una, y dos, una, y dos.
Hello and welcome to Cortesnyc Livestream, the podcast. This is a bi-weekly show broadcasting out of New York City. We are your hosts, Cortesnyc,
and Carla de Puerto Rico.
and on this show we talk about art, creativity, city life from a Latino perspective. I'm a visual artist.
And I'm a singer. So let's get on with the show.
This is episode 6, Trust Your Eyes. Our podcast has been expanding and now we're available on different platforms.
Yeah, that's right. And we are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean. So please subscribe, rate us, leave us a review. Any feedback is appreciated. You can also find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram under Cortesnyc Livestream. Instagram is our most active social media platform. So if you have any feedback, just leave a comment under this show's episode.
And I want to give a shout out to some of our Instagram followers. We got Pace BT, the homie from the Bronx, Sonia Gangoli Art, Prox1GWB, the other homie, Graffiti Writer's Block. It's me, Maha, Waste IF, Cute Demetrio, the Lauren Jeans, D Menace, the homie. What up, homie? I see you. And also a special shout out to TK and the AM. They are friends of the show. They have a radio show. And thank you guys for all the retweets and reposts on Twitter. Drawing from direct observation. That is the topic of this art talk. Trusting your eyes. So, last episode we spoke about drawing from your imagination, recollecting stuff from memory, what you do when you're freestyling. This time, I want to focus on another thing that you have to practice as a visual artist, which is drawing from direct observation. What are the reasons why we do it? I think for me, one of my personal reasons for doing it is to test my perception. Sometimes we get lazy, like it's almost like if you're constantly drawing from your imagination, it's like you're constantly using slang words. You're constantly using the same words over and over again. When you draw from direct observation, you're actually forcing yourself to break old habits. You're forcing yourself to look and to test your perception of what you're seeing in front of you. You're learning, if I'm going to continue to use the metaphor, the word metaphor, you're learning new words or expanding your vocabulary of the way you see things, right? So if you sit down, let's say, and let's speak specifically about a figure drawing class, right? You have a model in front of you, you have a piece of paper and a pencil, and you're just drawing the model in front of you. What are you supposed to be looking at, right? When you're looking at the model, you're really supposed to be first choosing your angle. You're supposed to be saying, where do I want to sit in the room, right? Do I want to sit below the model? Do I want to sit above the model, to the side, to the left, to the right? These decisions, usually they don't come into your mind right away when you're drawing from imagination. But if you're drawing from direct observation, these are the kind of choices that initially will bring you into the drawing. It brings you into the subject, right? Where do you want to be in relation to your subject? So that's the first thing you're going to do. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to start to look at the model and get past the fact that it's a human being, and you're going to try to just look at the person and what composes the person, what makes the person the image that's in front of you. It's not just a face, it's not just arms, it's everything. You're looking at the shadows, you're looking at the highlights. Yes, you're sketching and you're studying anatomy because you want to study what's the muscle texture, what's the fatty tissue, what's the bone structure, what's the weight, what's the length, what's the arm distance from the shoulder to the to the person's legs, upper legs, like what is the distance? You're trying to measure these things out, but at the same time, you're looking at things that have nothing to do with a human body. You're looking at the objects, the shadows, the angles, the contours. You're looking at all these other things. As you're looking at these things, you're developing a vocabulary. You're playing with abstract ideas. You're taking the thing that's in front of you, the person that's in front of you, and I said thing, and that's the way you're supposed to be looking at it. You're turning that person and that image into its components. You're deconstructing what the model is in front of you and what all the lighting and all the atmosphere is. And that's your initial thing, right? Is that you have to start to look at the compositional elements that are in front of you and break those things down. And that's something that you don't usually do when you're drawing from imagination. Because if you're drawing from imagination, you're drawing a butterfly, or you're drawing something that's safe, that's familiar to you. You see, if you listen to the previous episode 5, you would remember that I had a long conversation about how when you're drawing from your imagination, you're pulling from things that are safely stored in your mind, from things that you can recollect easily. That's usually what you draw from your imagination. When you're drawing from direct observation and you're using your eyes, you are taking in new information. And sometimes information that you might think you already know. Like, you might be drawing somebody standing in front of you, and then you suddenly start seeing their sneakers, and their sneakers don't look like sneakers anymore. You're just starting to see the shapes and the curves of the shoe and how it relates to the person's body. If that shoe, let's say, is behind something else, let's say the shoe is behind a vase, right? Now you're looking at the vase and you're saying, now that vase and that shoe are interconnecting on my paper. As I'm looking at it from my angle, the vase is very big and the shoe's very small behind it or something. That's something that you would never do if you were drawn from your imagination. So the interconnectivity between the objects, the overlapping of objects and shapes, and the deconstructing of the people or the objects that are in front of you, whether it's a still life or a model, the deconstruction of that visual into its components. That's what you can only get from direct observation. You know, you start to become more abstract in your thinking as you're looking with your eyes, you know, at what's in front of you. So I talked a little bit about measuring, you know, distance and size, right? Another thing that you do when you're drawing from direct observation is measuring, a lot of measuring. Consider yourself the king of measuring when you're drawing from direct. Your eyes are like a ruler, and you're just, that's what you should be doing. You should be looking at the distances between the shoulders to the leg, the distance between even something that's behind the person. Let's say a window that's behind the person, and you're looking at the size of that window, and you're looking at the person in front of the window, and you're making measurement calls between those two things. That's something that you only do in direct observation, and that's something that will help you later on, you know, when you go to do other, you know, pieces of art, you know, it'll help you. So measuring distance, your distance from the distance between you and the model as well, the size of the model, the size of the objects in front of you. You're looking also at the form of the subject, right? You're looking at the person and you're saying, well, is this person standing? Is this person laying down? That's already two different shapes. The entire person, it becomes two different forms altogether. If the person is laying down, the form that you're seeing is more of a horizontal shape. It's going to look a little more like a landscape, and you might not see that person anymore like a person. The person laying down might seem more like a mountainside or you know, a skyline, let's say, you know, depending if the person's arms are up or if their legs are up. These are things that you should be looking at when you're drawing from direct observation. How the general shape of the person, or if it's a still life, of the objects, the general shape of the objects, the general shape of the person. And that's going to teach you composition. And that's something that you can use as a vocabulary tool later on when you're going to draw other things. Knowing composition. How do you learn composition? You learn it from drawing from direct observation. Everything in life has a composition. Believe it or not, you know, interior designers, they use the phrase I think it's feng shui or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's a Japanese expression for, you know, laying things out in your room. You know, when you're laying out your composition and you're looking at the person sitting there and what's behind them, what are they sitting on? Are they in a chair? Are they laying down on a bed? Are they laying down on a mattress? Are they laying down on the floor? All these things are the part of your composition. And composing your drawing, you begin to learn design. You can take this into graphic design as well later on if you explore graphic design. Learning composition and arranging the objects in your composition. Once you are just picking an angle to sit at to draw these people or to draw the objects, you are beginning to do design. You're designing it. You're designing which is the angle you want to draw at, and you're picking and choosing what is going to be in your drawing. If you don't like a certain thing that's in the layout in front of you, let's say if the person's sitting next to a guitar and you don't want to draw that guitar, well, you're going to pick an angle where you don't have to draw that guitar, right? So right there, you made a conscious choice as to your composition. You should be like a photographer. Photographers do this. You should be choosing your angle so that you can compose your visual, right? But this time your visual is on your paper. Carla, I'm going on, but like, what do you think about when you see, or if you've heard of, figure drawing and all that? Have you thought of these things, or are these things that are?
No, these are completely new to me. Since I met you, is when I started really seeing a little bit more in detail of how it's happening, and how is it that it happens. That it doesn't have to be a perfect drawing at the first attempt. At first attempt, when you're trying something new, when you're looking at something, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I think another thing that people should know when you're drawing from direct observation is you are not creating a beautiful piece of art, the way Carla said, right? You're not creating a beautiful piece of art. That's illustration, illustration or commercial art. If you're making a final piece of illustration or a beautiful painting, that's when you can get into like something perfect and slick, right? When you're drawing from reality, you're drawing from direct observation, you're using your eyes and you're drawing what's in front of you, okay? Reality is not beautiful. If reality is beautiful, I think you're lying. I think you're kind of glossing over some of the details that make it reality. Your model, as beautiful as she or he might be, is going to have a little fat. Is going to have a little bit of wrinkles. Is going to have a little bit of a posture that is not so attractive. They're not going to be super buff. They're not going to be the perfect physique. Also, your model or subject matter might be a little older. Might be, their features might not be the most attractive features, right? But it's not your job to make them attractive. It's your job to just document the shapes and the angles that you see. That's reality. You're documenting reality. When you're drawing from direct observation, you're documenting. Okay? If you guys have ever watched a documentary, documentaries usually reveal things that we don't always pay attention to. Mm-hmm. When you're watching a movie, like right now we have a movie in the background and it's gladiators and it's amazing special effects. Yeah, a movie is amazing and it's fantasy and it tells you a story. When you're documenting or you're drawing from reality, you are going to trust your eyes even if the truth is a little bit ugly, even if it's a little ugly. And you shouldn't be afraid to offend. That's another hurdle to overcome, another obstacle. As an artist, is that you have to own it. If I'm drawing, let's say if I'm drawing a friend of mine, let's say it's a female and I'm drawing a friend of mine and she says, oh, draw me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to draw you. And I'm drawing her portrait. If the portrait is not that flattering, you don't want to be insulting, but at the same time, if it's not that flattering, you have to own it. You have to say, well, that's what I tried to do. And a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you, 99% of the times, the subject, if they see your drawing, is not going to be happy with your drawing. They're going to have some inside feeling because they see themselves a certain way, and they're going to have a perspective of what they think the drawing would look like. And when they see it, don't be surprised if they're not that thrilled. They might say nice drawing, but inside they might be like, well, I'm not sure if that looks like what I look like. It's not. It's the way they look like to you. It's you documenting. Okay.
And another thing is that maybe people, some artists out there, they don't have a place to go for this figure drawing or figure drawing from observation exercise. Can they do this maybe in a museum? If they go in a museum and just sit down and draw something that they see there.
Right. I mean, direct observation can be go to the park, draw the people in the park if you see somebody sitting still for a while, or just draw the park itself.
The landscape.
The landscape. Or one of my favorite things is to go to a museum. I visit many museums throughout the city. I look on weekends now because I've seen all the museums practically. I look for museums, obscure museums that I've never heard of. Museums that are maybe more related to cultural artifacts, like older things or subject matters. Like we went to the Transit Museum, for example, and I sketched the interiors of the old trains.
Yeah.
The Native American Museum downtown, you start to sketch. They have amazing, great artifacts and all these little maquettes and little architectural pieces that they try to display the old civilizations. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a figure, it doesn't have to be a live figure. It can also be things like that. That can also help to exercise your observational skills. Back to the idea of drawing what your reality should be. I'm going to throw some keywords at you. Okay. So illustration, right? So we said illustration and that kind of thing can be slick. Commercial art can be slick. It's supposed to sell, right? So think about all the commercial and advertisement that you see. They never show anything that's not slick or smooth or beautiful.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Advertisement. If you're going through magazines, let's say, and you want to draw from figures from magazines, let's say a catalog or something, you're gonna end up drawing models. Models are chosen because they're slick and they have certain angles and they give a certain impression. And their photos are photo retouched and everything is perfectly lit. When you're drawing from direct observation, okay, when you're drawing your reality, your drawings, they're going to be a little ugly. They're going to be loose, okay? These are key words you should remember as you're drawing from direct observation. Loose, ugly, anxious, okay? This is something sometimes you guys don't think about. A lot of artists, especially beginners, maybe some of you guys, I'm not sure, but I'm sure I have some beginners that are listening to us. When you first start to draw from direct observation especially, your drawings are going to be anxious. So what do I mean by an anxious drawing? I mean that they're going to have squiggly lines. They're going to be nervous looking. They're not going to be as confident. Your lines won't be secure. They're not going to be clean like a comic book illustration. Clean, slick lines. They're going to be anxious. The lines are going to be a little crooked. They're going to be a little wobbly. Okay? That's okay. That is what makes it feel real. The human figure is not a dead figure. It's not going to be sitting there still. You, as the observer, are not sitting still. As still as you think you're being when you're drawing, you're actually moving around a little bit. So that also gives a wiggle to your drawing. It's okay. Okay? Your drawing reality, documentation of reality should be a little edgy. It should have your voice, your personal expression with your hands, your signature style of holding a pen. That should be present. If it's not present, you're doing something wrong. You're faking it. I used to have a teacher. This is a funny story, but when I was in college, I was in a painting class, and the teacher was straight out of like a samurai movie. He was American, but his attitude was like straight out of like some samurai discipline kind of thing. And he was teaching us to paint, and we were painting still lives. And he would walk around, and he literally, if he saw that you were kind of faking it, and you weren't putting you weren't really looking at what was in front of you, he would ask you. He would be like, "Well, what color is that you're painting there?" And let's say the thing that they were supposed to be painting was like a pale red, but you started using like a red straight out of the tube, so it was bright red, like a red lipstick, but it's not. It's supposed to have been pale, and it's like a soft, natural red. He would see that, and he would be like, "Well, is that the color?" And if you started saying, "Yeah, no, it's red," and he would say, "No, it's not," and he would wipe with turpentine. He would wipe your whole canvas. Just buff it clean and tell you to do it again.
Wow.
If you started sketching in your paint and you started kind of doing the figure, and you kind of made the person, you kind of started doing like eyes first and then the mouth. Instead of doing the whole figure, you started doing like the eyeballs and then like the ears and then the hair. He would walk over to you and be like, "What about the rest of the figure?" And you would be like, and then he would wipe your whole thing clean.
Wow.
Yeah. this was the kind of
I mean, but that's
tough love. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
kind of like a way of teaching to tell you, we see what you're doing. We all are watching you as you're doing what you're doing.
and that's important because sometimes artists, they don't have that a mentor person in their lives to be like, hey, this is the way you should do it, and I don't care how many times you have to do it,
Or
do it right.
or I mean, I think there's a good sentence you said right there. This is the way you should do it. I don't think he was saying this is the way you should do it. I think he was saying you're doing it wrong. Try again. I think that was it. Because he didn't
Okay,
literally
okay.
he didn't tell us exactly what to do. He just kept telling us all the
This
shit we were
is
doing
not
wrong.
exactly. This is not the way you're supposed to be doing
You're
it.
faking it.
Yeah, okay.
And he would basically tell us you're faking it. You're
So
faking
basically,
it.
he wasn't looking for the perfect
No.
drawing. He was looking for your drawing.
Exactly. And that's another part of drawing from observation or painting from observation is a ball. Let's say if you're painting a ball, right? Let's say a soccer ball. A soccer ball, if I told you soccer ball and you close your eyes, if you draw it from your imagination, I know that you already know what to draw. It's the octagon shape pattern. It's a big old circle with the little boxy shapes inside, right? And it's black and white.
Black and white. Mhm.
Exactly. That's a cartoon. That's from your imagination. And the art teachers, fine art teachers, struggle to teach people to stop doing that. Because what happens, and now we're going to go into a little slightly different subject, but still the same, related. What happens is that in our educational system, we're trained from elementary school forward, kindergarten and up, to recognize objects and drawings on a two-dimensional plane. So we're taught that boy means this, and this cartoon means girl, and this cartoon means ball, and this is how you see a car, and an apple looks like this, and an apple is red.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
the
so
colors.
yeah, so you're trained from an elementary level this vocabulary of shortcuts of what a person looks like. They teach you to draw faces. All right, this is a face. You make a circle. You put an eyeball. You put another eyeball. You should always have two eyeballs. If you don't have two eyeballs, it's not a face. And
Yeah.
you draw a straight line, and that's a mouth. And because when you want to become a professional artist, or not professional, let's say if you want to explore your art a little more deeply, you need to break that small vocabulary of visuals, that iconography, that cartoonism. You need to break through that. And the best way to break through that is to draw from direct observation, because now you're looking at the world again. They're teaching you to look at the world again. And you're not looking at a face with two eyeballs and a mouth. You're looking at the side of a face or 3/4 of a face, and this face is not the face you've been drawing your whole life. This is the face that's in front of you. And that face is not F-A-C-E, face, the way you spell it out, face. It's not the cartoon of a face. It is a bunch of shapes under shadow with a certain lighting, with a certain facial hair and a certain skin texture and a certain expression, because every human being has a certain expression on their face. They're trying to break through and trying to make you acknowledge those elements of that person in front of you. And they can see it. An art teacher, a good art teacher, or in general art teachers, should be able to see and see what you're drawing and say, you know what, you're drawing a cartoon. You're not drawing what's in front of you. You're not really looking. I can tell you're not really looking, Or you're focusing too much on that eyeball. Why? What is it? Why are you trying to make a perfect eyeball? It's not about the eyeball. It's about the whole person in a room. All right, so breaking through the vocabulary is important. Creating new words to describe the objects in front of you, the people in front of you. That's what you go to art school for. And that's what you don't have to go to art school for, but that's what you draw from direct observation for. Another element that is part of drawing from direct observation is when you're going to draw a person in front of you, if you're studying a sculpture or you're studying an object, let's say a pair of shoes or something, and it's in front of you and drawing it, draw the object within its space. Don't ignore the space that it's in. Meaning, if it's on the floor, indicate to me on your drawing that it's on a floor somehow, whether it's a drop shadow on the floor or the texture of the floor or the pattern that the floor has. If it's on the top of a table, draw the table as well and give me a little bit of what's behind the object. If you're drawing a person standing in a room, draw the person in the room and draw some of the stuff behind the person in the room, or what is the person leaning on? What are the objects in front of the person? Something that I like to do is if I'm drawing people in a room, let's say in a museum, and I'm drawing the people sitting there, I like to draw the thing that's closest to me, the thing that's in the middle, the things in the far background. I like to draw the subject surrounded by its environment. This is something that I remember teachers used to tell me a lot. They used to say, don't ignore that space, because the subject without an environment to be in is just a study. It's just a floating object in with no space. Put that object into a reality. Even if it's just one little line that indicates a horizon line, that's already a space. The minimum that you should do is a horizontal line across the center of the page to indicate a horizon line, and that already tells me that it's in an environment. I see the floor and I see the sky. I see the ground and the sky. That's the minimum. But if you look at when you're drawing, let's say a person sitting on a chair, and you look at what's around them, and you just give some indication of the chair, the wall, what the person is leaning on. In the future, when you look back at that drawing, that drawing is going to be so much more vivid to you. That's what's going to make that drawing come to life. And in the future, when you look back, I have many drawings that I have like that, where I look back and I say, wow, look at that. I remember where I was when I drew that. I remember that it had, that I was sitting in that room, or I was sitting at that park. You know what I mean? That adds to your vocabulary, not just of the shapes that you're drawing and the person you're drawing, but also of the place that you were, and it helps document. If you're reading a good book, the book is always going to describe the environment, right? The time, the place. Well, that's what your sketches should be like as well. They should describe some of that. Well, I think we covered a lot, Carla.
Very interesting to listen to all these little details of what it is to draw from direct observation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, our listeners, I'm sure we have many artists that are listening, but, some of you who haven't tried drawing from direct observation, take on the challenge, try it. Maybe share with us experiences that you've had, or suggestions that you have for drawing from direct observation.
Definitely, like always, just hashtag Cortesnyc Livestream on your post if you want us to take a look at it, or you can just add us as a comment on your post and just share everything.
Yep. All right, so now we're going to move over from trusting your eyes, the subject of trusting your eyes, to trusting your feet. Because these hips don't lie.
They
Carla,
don't.
what's the subject?
So for today's episode, we're going to be talking about dancing to Spanish music, and overall also dancing, how important is it for the Latino culture?
True.
And well, I want to start by explaining that dancing is part of, I think, any Latino household in the United States, because I think dancing is something that is our family teach us how to dance since we're little, and music is a big part of our traditions. So everything that has to be related to music, to movement, to
rhythm.
To rhythm also.
Rhythm is very important we're not saying that you have to be professional salsa dancers and bacheteros and whatever, you know what I mean, or rumba dancers and ballroom dancers, but there's a rhythm to the family, there's a rhythm to how they speak, how they communicate with each other. There's a rhythm even in just doing chores. That's a cliche, I know, in Latino movies where they show, the the mom or the grandmom or whoever cleaning up, and they're like dancing while cleaning the house.
But that's actually something real. Like, I don't know why, but it makes us move better, feel better while we're doing chores, to just have some music in the background.
Some people might say Latinos do it with style.
Yeah.
Can't do anything without doing it with style, right? You got to do it a little bit of a style.
Yeah.
And that's just a rhythm. It's just a rhythm of how we try to approach things.
Yeah. So we were talking about rhythm, and that's what dancing is all about rhythm. So a little bit about how I got into dancing. I'm not a professional dancer, but I do enjoy dancing, and when I go out with my friends, it's something that we like to do. We like to dance, we like to move, to express ourselves. So this is something that I got in my family. My family is big in music, and when we were little with my cousins, we were a lot of girls in the house. So we were dance, and they would teach us merengue and salsa and bachata a little bit too. So it was something that I think that our parents were teaching us, just like to say, "Oh my God, mira qué linda como baila."
How cute you are dancing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that because they saw it as part of what where they came from, they wanted to transmit that to us.
Yeah.
And then after having that experience in our families, then we go to school. And going to school in Puerto Rico means that you have a lot of activities and a lot of cultural activities that had to do with dancing.
There you go.
So anything that we had, let's say, since we're very, very little, in Christmas, and also there's a week, I think it's in November or October, where they celebrate the Puerto Rican, feeling Puerto Rican, basically. It's like the week for Puerto Rico. And they will have different activities where different groups, they will represent, let's say, this group is going to represent the countryside, and this group is going to represent the city side, and this group is going to represent the dances from the Spaniard time. So we had all these activities. We were always do our choreographies, how our dresses, depending on what we were dancing.
So you're doing folkloric dance, like
no, because
cultural
more
community
than,
kind of events and
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a family. It was like for a family day.
Gotcha.
So on that family day, every group will dance either a danza or plena or bomba, and that was something that we grew up with. And then also on the field days, because I was never into sports. So on the field days, what I would do is dance. And we would do our little dances, and we compete with each other, compete with the other groups. And the dance was the most important thing. So we were practicing every single day after school.
I could imagine a little Carlita there. Oh my God, I have to do my dances. I have to practice.
Yeah. And we were practicing everything. If we were going to act, we have to act. We were going the outfits. We were figuring out all the outfits. Everything had to be perfect for the field days. So I think that all these experiences help us to understand why dancing is so important, at least in the Puerto Rican culture, but also in the Latino culture in general.
Well, I would add to that age level. I would say my stories at that age level was in Colombia. I think I was like in 4th grade or something, and I had cousins in Colombia. I had gone to Colombia. I was living there for a year, and basically my aunts, any party or any kind of, like, even if it was a small family party or a small family gathering, you would end up putting music on and people would start dancing. Yeah. And dancing for them, wasn't, even though back then there was rock and rap and that kind of stuff and disco and that kind of music and pop music, but the idea of dancing was that you would create pairs. You would take a little boy, a little girl, get together and dance.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would teach you one how to lead the other, and you know, I mean, all gender role concepts aside, all of that gender kind of issues aside, just the act of pairing up and coordinating with a partner, I think that's something that is still valuable and still valid.
Yeah.
In that experience, that they would force you to coordinate with somebody hands on, you know.
Actually, that just reminded me that in my school we also had like a dance marathon.
Whoa.
So this was a night that you had to have a partner. So sometimes they'll do like, okay, you, this girl and this boy, you just have to participate. Just do it. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. So like you said, it will be a pair. And because it is what it is, it was the boy and the girl.
Right.
And I remember that once my cousin and my uncle participated and they won.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's how you see also how dancing is so important in our cultures. Yeah. So going a little bit into...
Well, I mean, before we move on.
Yeah.
No, so I remember, I just wanted to share this memory. I remember dancing with my cousins. I remember the first music that I learned to dance with was vallenatos, which is like an old style. And I don't know why my grandmother played so much joropo, which is a type of Colombian music. It's Colombian, but it's also like, it stems from further south, I think, from the border with
Venezuela.
And, you know, so I was born in the United States and I was in Colombia and I was learning to dance vallenatos with my cousin and you know, kind of like a slow dancing, but like also it's got a little rhythm to it, and then cumbias and things like that, and then a little bit of merengue and a little bit of salsa. And it's funny, I remember me being so little and not being shy and like being taught to not be shy, to break that ice and not be afraid to like express yourself, but also to hold a partner and dance with a partner and coordinate with a partner and not to be embarrassed. I mean, if you were embarrassed, they would tease you until you would stop being embarrassed, you know? But I remember learning these steps and these rhythmic steps and all this, and it was a normal thing that when later on, as I got older, it was weird when I came back to the United States and I started seeing that in junior high school, people were so shy to dance. And they were shy to dance American pop music where you're not even holding each other. And they were shy to ask somebody to dance. And I was like, really? Yeah. I didn't understand it. That was like a real... I didn't speak out about it, but I just remember it being a weird thing that made me feel a little bit like an outsider, but it made them look strange as well. Then, you know, I remember later on in life learning about dance lessons, people actually paying money to learn to dance, and people being surprised that I knew how to dance salsa or merengue or cumbias or whatever. And that's where, you know, you really understand that it's a cultural thing.
That's actually real. And thinking about that, it is true that we are not afraid to dancing with each other. I remember also growing up when we were going to let's say birthday parties or anything like that, or we had like a little prom for junior high kind of, we were not afraid. We were enjoying the whole night because we knew each other already. But not only that, but we were used to dancing like, oh, it's just dancing and we can dance with whomever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Going into the different styles that we have in Latino dancing, I want to start with merengue, which is I feel like it's the most simple one. It's just two steps and move your hips.
I think that's one of the most basic ones that everybody...
Basic ones,
right?
Yeah, but you really have to feel the rhythm. You cannot be just moving your feet 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's it.
That's true.
I've
seen that.
Yeah, me too. So I think that's something to be careful with.
True.
Just try to listen to the drums. Try to listen to not the melody, but the rhythm of the song. Yeah. And then maybe try to feel a little bit of that, and you might look better than just moving your feet 1, 2, 1, 2. It's not just that.
Well, I mean, it's hips, it's thighs also. That's another part of merengue.
Exactly.
If you're not doing hips, thighs, then
You're not doing it.
And shoulders.
It's your whole body.
Yeah, you gotta move your whole body. I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry. Next one.
Next one will be salsa. Salsa, I took some classes back in school.
What? You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I took some classes back in school, and in any summer camp that you are, or when you start growing up, you want to learn a little bit more, because salsa, it is a little bit more complicated. Salsa, you have the number of the steps are 3, 5, 6, 2, 1, and one more number.
Bingo!
Yeah, I know.
It's like a lottery number.
It is. And then it is a little bit more complicated also, because while you're doing these steps, your partner is doing the opposite. So you really have to know how, if you're a female, how would you be dancing with somebody that is going to lead you, even though it can be whomever, but you need to know that part. You also need to know the other part. Once you take a little bit about the basic steps, I think it's a little bit easier for you to just lose your hips, and then lose your arms and your
Shoulders.
Yeah.
I think one of my tips for salsa is bass lines. I like to follow the bass line. I think it's an easy way to get into the rhythm. If you find, sometimes Americans hear the salsa and they just hear all these instruments going on. I can imagine that they hear like clack, 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 drums and timbales and congas and everything, and then they hear violins and guitars, and they hear all this, and the guy singing and the chorus.
Like, I don't know what to do with
I don't know what to follow, right? But no, I think the bass line is one really good cue into where your feet should be and what steps should take. And another thing that I would recommend is, when you're dancing salsa, remember that there's always an in-between shuffle, an in-between slide. So you have that 1, chaka, chaka, 2, chaka, chaka, 3, chaka, chaka, 4, like that little in-between, that's the part that you have to kind of get used to, because that's not American. American is 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? Like, it's very stomping.
I just remember the numbers.
Oh boy, Carla.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So the 4 is the one that you're stopping in the middle.
Okay. All right.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 4. You're supposed to be stopping in the middle.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you could find this on YouTube. Go look for how to dance salsa. I'm sure there's a video
for beginners
that will explain this a lot better than us just telling you.
Exactly.
All right, next one.
So next one will be bachata. I love bachata.
Oh, do you? You've never said it.
No, I never said it before. But bachata, I feel like it's simple to dance, but at the same time, you do have to have the rhythm on your hips, because it's a lot of hips. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter the steps that you do, because the specific number of steps, but it is a lot of movement of your hips, movement of your arm, and it's a little bit sensual.
They're all sensual. Merengue can be a little bit sensual. Salsa can be a little bit sensual. But what makes bachata unique is that it's the left-right motion. You're going left, you're going da 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 da. You got that 1, 2, a little emphasis at the end, and then back, emphasis at the end, back, emphasis. So that little emphasis is different than salsa, where it's like ba, slide over, ba, slide over, ba, slide over, ba. You know what I mean? That's a difference. But yes, bachata has its technical dance also, right? It's very popular now. Yeah,
now everybody wants to learn how to dance bachata. It's getting very popular now.
On another level, on a competitive level.
But that's the thing. The sensual part of bachata, I felt that it was more because you're dancing with your partner in the dance room, in the club, or whatever. Now they're taking that sensual step to the competitive level. That now when you look up bachata dancing or competitions of the bachata, you see all those sensual steps on that level, which I don't know if it's true or not. So continuing with other styles, I think we can get into reggaeton, which
Perreo.
el perreo.
El perreo.
So it's basically
Grinding. That's
that's
very
the name?
American. Yeah, booty grinding. Bumping and grinding.
Okay, so bumping and grinding.
Twerking.
It's twerking,
It's
it's
bumping and
moving your
grinding, yeah.
hips, it's moving your booty, it's dancing with the other person, but it's there's nothing so technical like the salsa or merengue. You're just putting your bodies together.
Well,
And yeah.
I would say that the only thing to remember about reggaeton, if you're listening to reggaeton that's really reggae based, is that you're swaying with the rhythm. Like don't forget about that part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I mean, you got
Yeah,
reggaeton
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
little more hip hop and like pop locking, and they're twerking and popping. But if you think about reggaeton that's a little more swaying in reggae style, like that's where you kind of get into the bass line, the groove of it,
And then we do have other more serious, not serious, but a little bit, it is a little bit more technical kind of dances, which is tango,
Which is more ballroom dancing.
more ballroom dancing.
Yeah, traditional old ballroom dancing.
Yeah, so tango is an example of this. We actually took some classes back in the summer, and it was really fun and interesting to see the similarities between the rhythms and the styles that we already know with tango, and also to see how they make it seem so easy. When you look at a couple dancing tango, you don't see all the little steps that they're making in order for them to
synchronize. Yeah, that's true.
So that was another dance style that I would like to explore a little bit more too.
You wanted me to teach you, right? This is street reality.
Ahora sí, hablando español.
Hablando.
And I want to give a shout out first and foremost to our listeners out in Sweden.
Hello.
That's to you guys. Un abrazo bien grande para ustedes, escuchándonos desde allá.
Yeah, and also we want to give a shout out to everyone that has participated in our Hablando Español poll from episode 5.
Espero.
We are still taking your votes. How do you say it in Spanish? How do you say pen in Spanish? Bolígrafo or esfero?
Espero, we know it's espero.
Look for our poll on our Facebook page and just click on the right answer, which is bolígrafo. You already know.
All right, but thank you all for participating in that, and we're still taking votes.
Yeah.
So now, Carla, what do you have for us this week? What is our Hablando Español this week?
Well, this week we have a lot of words.
All right, so let's
go through it. So, figuras.
Figures.
Yes.
Figuras.
Observación.
Observation. Observación.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Mirar.
Mirar. Mirar, look. Is mirar, look.
Admirar.
Ooh. Admirar is to admire.
Wow, nice.
Admirar.
Yes. Sombras.
Sombras is shadows.
Yeah,
Sombras.
sombras. Forma.
Forma. Wow, you're really picking at the design words, huh? I like that.
Have to.
All right, so what was it again?
Formas.
Formas. Formas would be shape
Yeah.
or shapes.
We want our artists to be bilingual.
That's true. That's true.
Tamaño.
Tamaño. Wow. Tamaño is size. So if some lady asks you, ¿Qué tamaño eres? It's what size are you?
Why,
Obviously
lady?
talking about your shoes or your pants or your jacket, right?
Of course you want to know the size of your shoes.
Okay.
Of course. Espacio.
Espacio. Espacio is space. Space. Oh, I mean, you could say espacio in the sense of the room. El espacio dentro.
That's the espacio that I mean.
Yeah, like el cuarto, el espacio. So the space.
Percepción.
Percepción. Perception.
Yes.
Perception. Percepción.
Proporción.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a very good one. Proporción. Proportion.
Yes.
Proporción.
Yes. Baile.
Baile. Now we're moving on to your culture talk. Baile is dance.
Yes.
Baile. Oh, wait, but hold on. All right, but baile, this is important.
Now
So-
I'm gonna say
all right, go.
another one. I don't know if this is what you're gonna say.
Another version of baile.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Danza.
No, I was going to say bailar.
No.
So before we
but-
move on to
Okay,
danza,
okay.
okay. So baile is dance. Baile.
Baile is dance.
Bailar is to dance.
Exactly.
So if
yes.
somebody asks you, ¿quieres bailar? You don't say, ¿quieres baile?
No.
You say, ¿quieres bailar? ¿Quieres
Quiere
bailar?
bailar.
¿Quieres bailar? Would you like to dance? ¿Quieres bailar?
Whenever you see well, not whenever, but the majority of the cases, when you see a vowel and an R at the end, that means the verb being used.
Gotcha. Like
Caminar,
caminar, cocinar.
cocinar,
It's like to do.
correr.
It's to run, to do the thing.
Yeah.
So correr,
Correr,
cocinar. Okay. Pintar.
pintar,
Pintando.
pintando, o pintar. It's
Ah,
different terms.
yeah.
No, because it's
I got you, I
different.
got you.
It's
All right.
yeah.
So,
We'll talk about this in another episode.
on a more advanced episode.
Yeah. Another word is pasos.
Pasos. Pasos is steps.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's a good. You're picking some good ones, miss. Wow, that's because Greeta's not here to start.
He'll be here telling me like, and what does it mean?
All right.
Okay. Tradición.
Tradición is traditions.
And let's see if you know this one. This is the last one.
The last one? Not
Yes.
yet. I might throw some in there for you
Okay,
just
okay.
to stump you a
Well,
little
the
bit.
last one that I have, Día de Juegos.
Día de Juegos.
What is that?
Day of games? I don't know. Día de
No.
Juegos.
Field day.
Field day is Día de Juegos?
Yeah.
Really? That's how you guys use it?
Yeah.
This is in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
Field day.
Field
is
day.
Día de Juegos.
Día de Juegos.
I didn't even think about that. Like, how would you say field day?
Because
It's not
we always...
It's no día de. Bueno, field day is kind of like you're a day out in the field.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a retreat. It's like
But for us,
Yeah.
it was a lot of sports and games and stuff like that. So I guess the translation that they used was Día de Juegos. Because every time we had like a little teacher and he would say Día de Juegos.
wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what other word do you have?
Oh,
have
I
any
have
other
too
words?
many words.
Oh, I'm ready.
All right. Well, in order to dance, right? We were saying that in order to dance, you need a partner. How do you say partner in Spanish?
Pareja.
Pareja. Pareja. Yeah.
Pareja de baile.
Yeah. So your partner, your dance partner, is your pareja.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, we were talking about dancing, right?
Yeah.
And to dance, you need to have rhythm. How do you say rhythm?
Ritmo.
Ritmo. Ritmo
Mm-hmm.
is rhythm.
Ritmo.
Okay. And I think lastly, I'm going to say if you are dancing
Yes.
for a long time,
Yes.
let's say you're dancing all night, right?
Yes.
What do you call that party when you're dancing all night? I know every country has its own way of explaining what a crazy party is, right? In Colombia, we say, "Tuve una parranda, una rumba." How would you say? This is less of a translation and more of an expression. What do you say when you are saying you're going to an all-night dancing?
Hasta las 15.
All right,
That's a little bit more Dominican.
in Colombian expressions, we would usually say, fue una rumba, una fiesta,
Una fiesta, sí.
o no,
Or
vamos
un
de
party. And we actually use the word party.
party. You guys use party.
We do.
Party.
Vamos para el party. Vamos para el party Vamos para el party de aquí. That's what you can see there the
English
influence,
influence, yeah.
in our
Puerto Rico.
culture.
Yeah, party. And
Nosotros
Dominicans,
sí decimos party.
Dominicans also say party, right? I party.
Yeah, pero
El viernes, I party.
El party hasta la madrugada.
Yeah. I mean, Columbus, I know, I mean, it might be old, but Columbus will say rumba, we say...
Parranda.
Estuviste parranda anoche, you know, but you guys use parranda. I learned that now is that you guys use it more. How do you use parranda?
Well, we might talk a little bit more about this in another episode, but parranda is a gift and is something that is done during Christmas time. Is a group of people that goes to the house of another person to give them the gift of music.
Which is in American culture, it's Christmas caroling.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
So Christmas caroling in Puerto Rico
it's parranda.
It's parranda, and in Colombia parranda we use it to mean going out partying.
Vamos pa'l party.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes episode 6. Our next episode is episode 7, titled Documented. For Art Talk, we're going to be talking next episode about documenting your art, your life, through video, through journals, different ways of documenting.
And on Culture Talk, we're going to be talking about cliches and common misconceptions of Puerto Rican culture.
Ooh, I can't wait for that one.
I have a lot to say.
Okay. So
And like always,
at the end,
we're gonna be
hablando español at the end. Yes.